Peter here, aka Peter Freakout 10, bring you guys our episode of the Movie Review Show, where the good movies are always reviewed. Okay, back into our movie review. Now, on today's episode, today we're going to take a look at a film that I was never actually planning on watching. This film was actually requested to me by my cousin, who was like, you should check this film out. Because I was actually talking to him about a later film that was directed by the same guy, and it stars one of the main actors of the film that actually came out a year later after this. And my cousin actually recommended me this film and was like, it's really funny. And I have a weird relationship with this film because I remember that wasn't the first time I actually heard about it from him. The first time I actually heard about it was when I was watching an old VHS tape. I think it was like when I rented Spawn, and I actually saw the trailer for it, and I wasn't paying attention because I was either talking with someone. I really don't remember, but when I look back at the cover, because they showed the cover, it says now available on video, I was like, is this going to be just about two guys fighting over money? And that was because I really wasn't paying attention to the trailer, because I was either talking with someone or something else was going on, I forget. But the film just didn't look interesting. I didn't even know it was going to be the action film that it was coming to be, or it was, I should say. But when he brought the film up to me, he was actually talking about how funny it was, and so I watched the trailer of it. And I wanted to slap myself in the face. I literally wanted to slap myself in the face because this film was a lot funnier than I even thought it was going to be. Because when I was watching the trailer, I was laughing so hard I couldn't breathe. But what film is that, you may be asking? That film is none other than Money Talks. Now, Money Talks was a film made back in 1997. It was directed by Brett Ratner. Yeah. Now, the main reason why I say his name like that is because Brett Ratner is one of those guys who I like some of his films. I like the later film he directed, and I'll show it right now, this movie. Of course, Chris Tucker's in both of them, and I figured talk about this first since it came first, and then talk about this one. I showed this in an update, but got done watching that just today, and I gotta say it, I loved it. But I'll get into this one later. I'll talk about this one first. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Brett Ratner as a person. I don't know what it is. Something about him just rubs me the wrong way. Maybe it's because, yeah, he loves film, and he seems like he's very passionate about filmmaking, and I know about the Steven Spielberg thing when he made that short film, which had Rebecca Gayheart in it, and he got the check from Steven Spielberg, and he would walk around showing it to, all the people at the campus. He's passionate. It's just something about him just seems pushy, or I really don't know. It's just something about him. Whenever I hear him talk, it just makes you feel like this ain't a guy I would like to have a drink with. But I shouldn't say I completely despise the guy. I have nothing against him personally. I do like some of his films, too. I like this film, which I'll talk about later, and I like this film. I love this film, and that's pretty much all I gotta say at the moment. But in terms of what else he's directed, he started doing music videos. This was his directorial debut. He also directed this film. He would direct the sequel to the film, which I have in the other room because I'm going to watch it later. Red Dragon, I wasn't the biggest fan of. After the Sunset I liked. I'll review that later. But how this film came about, it came about from writers Alex Sokolov and Joel Cohen, who wrote Toy Story. And they wanted to do a film about America's Most Wanted criminal that was harbored by a Geraldo Rivera-type reporter on the weekend of the reporter's wedding. And they took a look at Brett Ratner as he was directing music videos, and Ratner liked the idea, and he thought it would be a great idea to use this film as a way for him to transfer into film. And pretty much, he looked at the script and he liked the idea, and pretty much, he wanted to do a sort of nod to films like 48 Hours. He wanted to give the feel of that sort of film, make it adult, and really make it, and really not try to ham up the CGI. He wanted to do a good old-fashioned 80s all-out action film in the 90s. So they got to work making it, and they had a budget of $25 million, and when the film came out, it opened to number 2 at the box office behind G.I. Jane with a $14 million intake, and it stayed at the number 2 spot for 2 weeks. And by its third week, the film started to drop, and it finished its run with $40 million. So while not a blockbuster, it was still a hit at the box office. Despite the large sum of money the film earned, critical reception was negative. On USA Today, Susan Walcienci, however you say your name, gave the film a negative review, not understanding why Chris Tucker was being considered the energy of a young Eddie Murphy. Some critics have even said Chris Tucker was the best part of the movie, but hated the film. On Siskel and Ebert, the film received a mixed review. Roger Ebert awarded the film 3 out of 4 stars. In fact, his quote's right there on the back. Chris Tucker has the energy of a young Eddie Murphy. Gene Siskel, though, gave it a thumbs down. But the audience score is like 71%, and on IMDb, the film has a 6.2 out of 10, so the audiences enjoyed it. And for some reason, and God knows why, Chris Tucker actually won a Razzie for Worst New Star. Which makes no sense because at the time he was in Friday, in House Party 3, and Jackie Brown. So you can't say Worst New Star. That makes no sense because he's not new. He's been in films like Friday and what else? Jackie Brown. I can't believe I forgot. So that was a completely wrong. Chris Tucker didn't deserve a Razzie for this film. No, really didn't. But I love this movie. I do. I don't understand why it got so much hate. I don't even understand why it's under the radar so much. In fact, as I said, I watched this film twice. I watched it once over the summer in preparation for this review, and each time I had fun watching it. And I gotta say, this film, I've grown a little bit of respect for Brett Ratner, and even though he may not seem like a nice guy in real life, I'm really starting to like his movies, and I think this was a good start for him. I think he did a good job with his debut, but I'll get more into that later. But with the cast in this film, as I said, you got Chris Tucker, who, as I said, was in Friday, Jackie Brown. He would go on to be in this movie, Rush Hour, and he'd be in Rush Hour 2, among many others. He's always doing a lot of stand-up. Well, he did stand-up, I should say. You got Charlie Sheen, one of my all-time favorite actors from 2 and a Half Men, TV show 2 and a Half Men. All Dogs Would Have 2, that film, back there. Let me get my fingers slowly. That film right there, All Dogs Would Have 2. He was also in Platoon, Major League, and Navy SEALs. Damien Chappa's here from Under Siege and Blood In and Blood Out and Street Fighter, which isn't that bad. It's not the best Van Damme film. There are much better ones, but I don't think it's his worst. You also have this guy named Gerard Ishmael, who does more French movies I've never heard of. Heather Locklear's here, who is hot, from TV Spin City. She was in Looney Tunes Back in Action, an episode of 2 and a Half Men, where she's actually in the beginning beating the heck out of the car with that Charlie Sheen and John Cryer driving. Paul Sorvino's also here. This is the guy from Romeo and Juliet. He was in See Spot Run. He was in Knockoff with Van Damme. Larry Haken is also here. He was the guy from Home Alone. He was the guy who was on the phone with the Family Crisis Center. He was also in Billy Madison, Escape from Alcatraz. Fazon Love has a role here as an inmate. He was Sweet in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Elf. He's another actor from Friday and Bebe's Kids. Paul Gleason's also here from National Lampoon's Van Wilder. Not another teen movie, and he was in Die Hard. He was the deputy in Boiling Point. A bunch of other people I know nothing about. But getting into the film, Chris Tucker plays Franklin Hatchard, who is a street hustler who also works as a ticket scalper and a car wash guy, so he can provide for his wife, who's close to giving birth soon. One day, his life ends up taking a turn when this reporter named James Russell, who ends up snitching on him, gets him sent to jail after he tries to get him to confess to his crimes, but something else happens and he gets sent to jail. And while he's on the bus, he's handcuffed to a prisoner named Ramon, played by Gerard Ismail, who has already planned an escape by having a group of his friends set up the ground with spikes and pop the tires. And Franklin ends up joining him because he's handcuffed to him, but they eventually get it off him. And he overhears this plan to get this cache of stolen diamonds. It escapes with the info because the guys are in a helicopter, and he ends up falling out of the helicopter in a really cool stunt. Like, he's falling back and he's going in like this circle that I felt was really, really cool. But yeah, if you watch the film, you guys gotta see that stunt. I don't know if it was Chris Tucker who did it, but it looks really good. If it is him, wow. But now he's a fugitive on the run. He decides to turn to the only person who's gonna help him get out of this mess in the first place, James Russell. Well, he's the guy who also got him into this mess, and who can get him out of this mess, I should say, man. But he agrees to hide him out so he can prove his innocence and get a story out of him on this incident so he could get some respect from his boss on sweeps week. So he gets him to his house and he assumes the identity pretending to be Victimone's son, Victimone Jr. And it becomes much harder when we discover that the weekend he's hiding from the cops, he's hiding at the house. On the weekend he is at a marriage, or he's at a wedding party for James and his wife Grace, who comes from a very rich family and is the daughter of this guy named Tony, Paul Sorvino, who ends up taking a liking to Hatchet. So the two set out to figure out what's going on and figure out where the diamonds are. All the while you have this guy named Carmine, played by Damian Chapa, trying to hunt down Franklin because he owes him money and gets word of the diamonds. And you also have these two cops named Detective Pinkett, played by Paul Gleason, and Detective Williams, who becomes certain that Franklin is responsible for everything going on and set out to stop him. But one of them may be hiding something. I won't say who, but you'll see who and what they're hiding. Will Franklin and James find their diamonds and put a stop to Raymond and his group? Will they avoid Carmine and his posse and actually get to the wedding? Or will there be no wedding and instead it's going to be a funeral? Now, this movie is awesome. And I feel some of the criticisms this movie receives are a little unfair. And I could definitely say, I'm going to say this right now, I think this is one of my favorite buddy movies. I wouldn't say it'd be my favorite because I can name a lot more that are better than this or above this, but I'll say I put this in the top 10. Definitely put this in the top 10. I mean, this I would put higher, but still, this is actually pretty good because the story itself has this setup that I really love. Brett described the story of this film and of these two characters as neither is in his own environment and each one needs each other to survive. And I like the idea of these two needing each other because of the fact that this whole problem involves these two in different ways. And it isn't the typical buddy formula. The two start off more friendly with each other. Now, granted, you do have moments where James does show a little bit of a tough side and Franklin's still the loudmouth. But it isn't like, oh, I hate you, go away. It's more in the sense of, I do what I say, you do what I say, you'll make it through. And it didn't come off as jerky. It really didn't. And I feel the smuggling diamonds idea is well done. It isn't focused upon too much, but it's too... Because, to put it bluntly, you're watching the film for Chris and Charlie together. But for what the story is, I like how they handled the buddy cop formula. This is definitely a better... well, I wouldn't say buddy cop. This is definitely a better buddy movie than Cop and a Half or Theodore Rex. Because it feels like it's doing something new with the formula. Now, granted, new doesn't always mean good, but... It isn't just rehashing it to the point where we've seen it a million times before. And I think Brett, and along with the writers, knew that it was a good idea to take it in a different direction. I think they display that on screen perfectly. It has a great sense of humor. It definitely offers a lot of quotable lines, most of which come from Chris Tucker. This, Rush Hour, Last Boy Scout, and the Die Hard trilogy have some of the most quotable lines of any action films out there. Granted, those are just the tip, but they're all really funny, and the lines in this film are just so funny, and I think it's a lot funnier than people give it credit for. Definitely think it's a lot funnier than people give it credit for. And it is shot well. Now, granted, this is Brett's first Hollywood film, and how the film is shot with is definitely a lot of Hollywood angles that you would see in any Hollywood film. But it doesn't matter because they looked good and it didn't bother me. Especially for $25 million. This film looks great. The action scenes when they happen are where the best angles are used, which I'll get to later. But especially the final. The final is definitely where the best angles are used, the best action scenes. They're wide, so you can make out what's going on. And pretty much I'll save that for later, but granted, they're not up to par with, say, Lethal Weapon, 48 Hours, Another 48 Hours, Bad Boys 1 or 2, Last Boy Scout, Beverly Hills Cop, or even Tango and Cash. But Brett did say that the action they were going for was more realistic and not in a cartoony vein, but they're well done for what they are, which I'll talk about them later. But this shows that Brett definitely knows how to direct and definitely uses the R rating well within these action scenes and utilizes practicality well in a lot of those scenes, which again, more on them later. But moving on to the acting itself is very good. Chris Tucker as Franklin is obviously the highlight. It's definitely easy to see that Chris drew a lot from Eddie in Beverly Hills Cop in 48 Hours, seeing as how he had admitted that Eddie was his hero, and he followed well. And no matter how you want to put it, he's not playing the same loudmouth that he played with Smokey and Friday. He's more along the lines of a get-rich-quick sort of guy, but it feels like he wants to get rich to give his wife the best. And when he gets involved in a situation... In this particular situation, I should say, he's smart and he knows where to go. And I think he delivered it well. And at times it almost feels like a warm-up to Rush Hour. Or the two Rush Hour films. Because towards the end, you see him get involved in more of the action set pieces. And he handles himself well. I'm unsure if he did his own stunts or someone else did. Like I said earlier with the helicopter thing. But if he did, wow, I didn't expect that. He looks like he's actually there doing the stunts. And if it is a stunt guy, they hit it well. They really hit it well. A lot of quotable lines with him, too. Like the part at the beginning when he's singing the Barry White song, "My first, my last, my everything, and the answer to all my dreams. You're my sun, my moon, my guiding star, my kind of wonderful, that's what you are." I don't want to kill your eardrums. But he reuses those lyrics to make a toast at a party for James and his wife, and that I found funny, and that made me want to listen to the song more. Another part that had me laughing was where he and James come face to face on the docks, and he pushes him into the ocean as revenge for earlier, and the two have a conversation, and he notices that James brought a gun, and he doesn't know he was framed, and he says this, "I didn't murder no goddamn money, but if I did, I'd murder your ass. If I did, I'd murder your ass right here and now. Coming out here with a gun in you. You know guns don't kill people. Stupid mother with guns kill people." That was hilarious. There's also the line that I found so funny. This is without a doubt one of my favorite lines. Second only to the one I'll mention, yes. But this line I found so funny, and I told it to my cousin, and he laughed just as much as me, especially when he saw it. He was like, yeah, I remember how funny that was. But they're at this nightclub trying to get answers, and they're trying to get in, and James tries to talk his way into the club. That doesn't work. So Franklin calls up the club and says this. And this is something no one should ever do. I mean, I know the people watching this, you guys wouldn't do it, but there are people who have mental problems, or to put it bluntly, act stupid or think they're cool, and they'll go out of their way to do that because they think movies are reality and they don't know how to distinguish right and wrong. And I just want to make it clear, don't ever go out of your way to do this. This is a movie, and you'll get consequences, and very severe ones. And right now, I'm quoting a movie. I'm not saying anything, okay? But what he says is, hello? This is Mike from Michigan. You don't heard from me for the last time, God. There's a bomb in the building. That's right, there's a guy. There's a guy. He does it better than me. He really does it. That's right, there's a goddamn bomb in the building. There's a goddamn bomb in the building. It's gonna blow unless you get the goddamn ass out of there right now. That was hilarious. Definitely on PC. And it always gets me laughing how Chris says it. But none of them beat this line he gives. Where it's the final and he's at the stadium and he's being chased through and he has to get the attention of Raymond outside who has James hostage. And so he has to get on the Jumbotron and he gets his friend Roland, played by Larry Haken's, attention, who's hiding in the room after he heard the gunshot. He says, hey Roland, man, wake up, man. Hey man, I know you're watching this, man. What's up? Man, these mother effers trying to kill me, man. Wake the F up. Man, I need you right now, man. Put me up on the screen, man. Put me up on the screen. But it doesn't stop there. He goes on, and when he says this, I burst out laughing. Hey, Frenchie! Bonjour, mother effer. Now listen up. Here's the deal. Let my boy go, and I'm going to give you your shit. So you can stop effing with me and take your old ass back to France. And I love how he just walks over to Charlie Sheen, who immediately says, does make a strong point, and he hits him over the head. Chris Tucker is a lot of fun, but once again, like Friday, I still wanted him to keep going. There was never a point with me wanting him to shut up. You can obviously tell he's taking the side of Eddie Murphy, as I said, and what everybody loved about 48 Hours at Beverly Hills Cop, and he's really putting it into himself and making it his own. And it really shows that that he would also use that later with this film. So, yeah, I think Chris Tucker did a great job, and he keeps the energy high. He never feels bored, he never feels tired, and he never feels like he's running out of steam. So, yeah. But moving on, Charlie Sheen's one of my all-time favorite actors. A lot of you already know that from over there, but I love a lot of his films. I love Major League, the first one, which is like my favorite baseball movie. I'm really loving his show 2.5 Men, which I started watching last weekend, and I like Hot Shots. So I like a lot of his movie, and here I thought it's no different. I like the fact that his character is not the usual buddy cop personality of being mad and constantly yelling at his partner. He's a nice guy, and while it does come off like he's doing it to get his job back, it really becomes a secondary objective once they realize their lives are on the line. And I thought he delivered it well. I definitely thought he delivered it well. And I like the fact that even though he's embarrassed about Franklin's actions, like the party and his wife's wedding, he keeps his cool. And he's really forgiving of him. And he actually says that at the end he's really sorry for what he did to him in the beginning. And I thought he and Chris had some great back and forth with each other. I like one scene where he tells him to get ready and he steps out to start the car and he's like, the top wasn't clean, white boy. Stuff like that. I think they do well with each other. You could tell the two are having fun. It's nice to see Charlie Sheen do another buddy cop movie after The Rookie and Navy SEALs. Heather Locklear is also here, as I said, and she's hot. I will say that. But her character isn't much to run home about. She's just the girlfriend, and she does what she can. She does what she can. Damian Chapa, though, I think is the worst of the cast. Playing Carmine. This guy is supposed to be intimidating and really be the one who has him on the run. But when you see him, you're like, this is the guy we're supposed to find intimidating? I didn't even like him in Street Fighter, and I like that movie. But probably wouldn't bother me if he was the assistant to the main guy. But he's the main leader of the gang, and he's supposed to be intimidating. He's like my height. And he just sounds more of a squeaky voice side. He just sounds more like... He sounds like an assistant. That's the best way to say it. He didn't fit the part. Honestly, if you were to ask me, I would have chose someone who has more of a threatening appearance, or someone who isn't squeaky voiced. He's even that good of an actor in other films. So Damian Chapa was horrible, and his character felt useless too. I'll get into more on that, but I will say Gerard Ismail as the villain, I thought he did a great job. I thought he had a great presence to him. I like that look of him with his goatee, and I think he does great with the character. And he has a great line when he tries to shoot Franklin. First, I'm gonna shoot you in the right knee, then I'm gonna shoot the other. You got that, homie? Really shows he's not someone to mess with. Really shows that. I mean, granted, you could say the villains are really not focused on too much, but in my opinion, there are scenes with the guys that make them stand out, and there's enough devoted to them, and it really gives them great personality. Paul Sorvino is another one of the best members of the cast, and I like him because it's nice to see Paul Sorvino give a performance where he's given more of a comedic side to the character. And it felt natural. It wasn't Hey Arnold the movie, like, you take the high road, I take the low road, whatever it was. I still haven't forgotten about that. He's actually having fun, and I like the fact that he develops a good relationship with Franklin, because he thinks he's victim-owned son. You see him making breakfast from his maid. He even goes to a freaking card bidding war, which was also funny. And he's like they're trying to do 700,000. Do I hear 700,000? And as that's going on, he's looking at the guy and he's like, this guy just won't quit. And that was just hilarious, and because they're trying to bid for the car that has the diamonds in it. I love when he finds out he's not victim-owned son, and that James might be involved with this crime. He says, I made my mom make him a mozzarella cheese omelet, and immediately tries to call off the wedding. But his wife's like, we have 300 people coming tomorrow. And he says, good, they come here, they eat, they drink, they sing, they dance, and they go the F home. That was funny. Paul Sorvino's having a ball as this character. Really is having a ball. And I don't know how he made it through his scenes without laughing, because that's how much fun he is in this film. Other cast members, you got these two cops named Pickett, played by Paul Gleason, Detective Williams, played by Daniel Roebuck, who are trying to catch Franklin, and they're the usual cops in movies, the ones who jump to conclusions without any evidence. Most of the time you see them, they're in this van spying on them or trying to get answers. You find out something about one of them, which, again, I won't spoil. But what they have to do, they're fine. Nothing too special, but the performances they're giving make up for them. And I don't want to make it too hard on them, because it's hard to hate them because they're giving good performances. But the acting is well done, minus Damian Chapa. I'm sorry, I just don't like Damian Chapa. I don't think he's that good of an actor. But moving on, the effects in this film, the action set pieces are fantastic. As I said, Brett didn't want cartoony action in this film. He wanted a more realistic approach to the action scene. So the use of CGI is completely thrown out the window in favor of practicality, which is evident in the first action scene with the criminals popping the tires on the bus, and you see real fire being used and models, all of which look perfect and fantastic and really feel like it's real. There are also real stunts that the actors get involved in, like the part where they're jumping across the rooftops trying to get away from the villains shooting at them, where just the way it was shot and the fact that it looks like they not only used real models but shot on location made me believe that these guys were actually getting chased and that they were actually jumping on rooftops trying to get away. It just looks really well done. You also get a fantastic car chase scene with real cars and real damage. Looks like it's being caused. And just that scene where the police car is chasing Franklin because he found the car with the diamonds, and he chases him around the town, and they're crashing into stuff, and eventually ends with Franklin just like going under this bridge, but the police car is on top of the bad guy, and it just drives off into this group of people. You see all these cars. I love the angle as it's going down. And it just looks really well done. It plunges itself into all these cars. I love how, as he's leaving, he's like, Frenchie! And he gives the finger. That was funny. But none of those scenes beat my favorite scene in the film in terms of action. That being the final in the stadium, which to me has become one of my favorite finals in any action film ever. Final area, I should say. Or set piece in any action film, because I love unique locations where a final can take place. And if you use the environment well and use this and contribute a lot to the scene with the environment, it can work. And I think Brett understood that. I love the fact that you see you see Franklin running through the stadium. You get this cool helicopter shot, and you just get the idea that the stadium is getting fuller and fuller by the minute because people are coming to try and get the diamonds. But at the same time, the people that are coming to get him can't kill him because they know where the diamonds are, and so suddenly becomes this tug of war. And I just like how he's running through, people are attacking him, pummeling him, and a lot of it looks real. The helicopter itself was real fire, real actors getting involved in the action, real stunts, and don't forget practical blood squibs, which look fantastic. When people are shot, they are getting shot practically, and it's a sight to behold. You see, even by 1997, we were still doing blood squibs. And I say that now because now they're starting to do CGI blood, which looks bad, but hopefully they'll stop doing that. But yeah, this film is a lot of fun, and I don't get the hate that it gets. In terms of cons, I already said one, Damien Chapa was horrible. I also wish that while I love the story, the film didn't go out of its way to include so many villains. And they just feel there for padding. For example, Carmine starts off in the film threatening him because he didn't pay his money. Then after that, he's just gone. And he doesn't come back till the end. And it just felt pointless. Or if you're going to basically have him come back, if you're going to do that just give a build-up. You got to give a build-up. Or something to tell us that he's coming back with a vengeance. Or have his character find out that Raymond is looking for him. And they team up together and try and get something out of it. Where they want to go. Do that. But nope, they went with this. And it balanced it poorly because the villains really just feel shoved in there at the last minute. And a lot that does come into play really just feels there for the plot. That's all I gotta say. But still, that really doesn't discourage my love for this film. Bottom line, Money Talks is a fun, energetic action picture that shows Brett's talents behind the camera. So, I highly recommend you check out Money Talks. It's a fast-paced ride that I feel deserves more recognition. So, I give Money Talks a 9.8 out of 10, and it deserves it. It therefore gets my seal of approval. If you're in the mood for a fun action film, I highly recommend Money Talks. This is a great movie. Definitely one you ought to check out. So, yeah, that's my review on Money Talks, and next time I'm gonna do a review on Rocky. You'll see my thoughts on that soon. But I also have a review planned of Rocky 2, After the Sunset, Rush Hour, Romeo Must Die, and I also plan to review Rush Hour 2. You guys see my thoughts on those soon, but anyway. I'll see you guys later. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Money Talks. Do you guys like the film? Do you guys think it's as bad as everybody says it is? Give me your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.